Hey guys, Jay Knowlton here once again, and today I want to talk about something that feels like has not really changed since I first came to Japan, which is teaching English in Japan, whether it's a viable way to work in Japan, a viable way to live in Japan, and a viable way to succeed in Japan. I'm just going to try and cover what I think, and what I want to express is it's what I think about these specific things. As you know, I came to Japan as an English teacher. So I came to Japan 12 years ago, 2013, fresh out of university. And the only thing I could do, because I didn't really have any skills, is to teach English. So I got a job at a company called Peppy Kids Club. They would teach kids after school. And to be honest, it was a really great gig for people who have just come to Japan, depending on the person. The two strong points about 13 years ago, Japan, when I first came, and it was that the salary was 240,000 yen a month. Now, 240,000 yen a month is not huge. However, if you're a new graduate, to be honest, even in Japan, you are gonna get around that, or probably even a little bit less. It's competitive in a weird way. Now, the thing that made it much nicer is that you only had to work like 3 or 4 hours a day. A lot of the times my work would start from 4 and then you could finish at maybe 8:30 or 9-ish. You had a few lessons each day that were like, I think it may have been 50 minutes or something like that. You had about 3 or 4 lessons a day, but you had to, especially when you first start the company, you have to arrive mega early. But for just working a few hours a day, the curriculum's all prepared for you. There's materials in the school. The students are already, gotten by the company. So you just had to go and do the lessons. And it wasn't really hard at all. And the other cool thing about Peppy Kids Club is that the training program, at that time at least, was really quite in-depth. It was like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, where you had a lot of seminars, the way that they wanted you to teach, lesson planning. So if you were a brand new teacher in Japan, you do actually get a lot out of the training. The big downside about working at Peppy Kids Club was you do not get to choose where you live, and most of the Peppy Kids Club schools were in very rural areas. They don't go to the cities, because in cities there's a lot of competition, things are more expensive. So to get maximum profit, why don't we just be the biggest schools in the countryside? So I got sent to Gunma Prefecture, which I managed to turn into a really nice 2.5 years, but it was quite a lonely job. Now, you could end up in a bit more of an urban place, but you're more likely to be in the middle of nowhere. Now, 2025, 12 years later, the salary is still the same. And on top of that, there's also a different type of English teaching job, the ALT dispatch company, which sends you to different schools in more of a actual teacher in a school kind of role. You might have to wear a suit, because the good thing about Peppy is that you could just wear whatever you want, as long as shorts were under your knees, you weren't showing cleavage, and no tattoos. The big downside to ALTs as well is that the salary is even lower than Peppy Kids Club. A lot of stuff that you're seeing nowadays is maybe 200 to 220,000 yen a month, which if you were to convert it into English pounds, you're talking £1,000 a month. And then if you're converting it into the American dollar, about $1,400 a month. Now imagine, you could probably live on that, but you would not be living very nice, which is the same as in Japan. Now, you could fill your time with side gigs and make more money. But of course, that's just adding more work to your life. With Peppy Kids Club, it was nicer because you only work such a short amount of time. I might have done some pay in cash English lessons. I think I had about 5 or 6 students. I was making about 60 or 70,000 yen a month extra from that, because I would teach like all the kids in the family. So I would get like group lesson money and stuff like that. So you can make money in ways. However, of course, that relies on you to, put the effort in, obviously, naturally, but some people might not have the energy to do so. So in 2025, the situation is that the salaries are very low. It's very easy to get into Japan. And I think that is the main point of attraction. If you want to come and live in Japan and you have a university degree, you can get in very, very easily, as long as you're from a native English speaking country. And they always put like, 12 years of education in an English environment. So maybe that includes countries like South Africa or the Philippines or stuff like that. Maybe that's how they get around it. I'm not quite sure, but I know a lot of ALT companies and Kiowa places now are hiring more people from Jamaica, the Philippines. I saw even like a few South Koreans in a place as well, which I've got no problem with, because I have seen most of the best English teachers not be native English teachers. Now, here's the big thing. If you come to Japan, you are tied to a visa. So you have to be very, very careful that if you want to move on from the English teaching world, you will have to find something that will give you a visa, unless you're on a spousal visa. If you got married before you came to Japan, or just got here and got married, you can get a permanent resident visa, but that will take time. You might have noticed that in this video, I actually didn't talk about the JET program. And to be honest with you, I actually don't know much about the JET program. I know it's an ALT system, and it's more tied in with the government. The pay is much higher. Therefore, it's much more competitive. And the ways to get in, it's a bit more competitive, it's a bit more strict. You are more likely to be rejected than to be accepted. So if just getting to Japan is your goal, you can get in the easy way. If you want to come to Japan and earn a nice salary and kind of have a nice thing for your resume, the JET program is good for you. To be honest with you, if you come to Japan and you work for the Heart Corporation or GABA or Nova and only work there for 6 months before trying to find another job, it might not look great for you unless you've got other skills that you built up in your home country before you came here. I think that's the main goal for a lot of people who do come to Japan, is that you want to move on to something else. And it's not easy to just move on to something else unless you've got something to give to people who will take you. Language skills, certifications, qualifications that can be transferable to working in a company. You can't just rock up with a sociology degree, work for Nova for 6 months and be like, okay, I want to work in a Japanese company, because they're not going to take you. I don't want to sound rude, but they don't need you. You need them more than they need you. English teaching is a kind of viable way to get into Japan, but it's not necessarily a viable way to live in Japan. Now, there are international schools and stuff like that. However, a lot of international schools, and I don't want to sound too rude because mine is kind of one of them, are more international preschools where they're not actually the proper certified international schools. They are more like nurseries or kindergartens that are international. And the salaries for those ones are not going to be as high as like proper international schools. So there's a lot, I've seen on Reddit recently, there's a lot of people talking about international school interviews, but it's not a true international school. If you want to work for a proper international school, you need a proper teaching license or an IB certification, Montessori certifications. You need to be properly certified. And that's when you can get good money. So would I recommend coming to Japan as an English teacher in 2025? There are conditions. I would recommend you come to Japan if you just want to come to Japan for a year, maybe 2, and just have fun. If you've been working during university or a year or 2 after university, saved up as much money as possible, and then come to Japan and want to use your savings to just enjoy life here, I think that's completely fine as an experience in your life. If you want to come here and build a career, I think I would spend more time in your home country first and build up those skills. Study Japanese before you get here. Maybe even take the JLPT in your home country first. Get other certifications, maybe in tech, AI, communication, leadership, and then maybe come to Japan, and then maybe you can even try and get into management in one of these English teaching companies, which is what I did. And then that's how I moved on to different parts of my career too. So that's just a quick video from me today. Probably a lot of babble wabble, but that's what you're gonna get from me in these videos. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry about that. But please leave a comment down below if you've got anything to add. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.